Good evening. Welcome to the April 3rd, 2025 Smyrna Municipal Planning Commission meeting. I will call the meeting to order, and if you will stand, Steve's going to lead us in prayer and Mark in the pledge.
Please bow your heads. Dear Lord, thank you for tonight. Thank you for safety through the night. Lord, we ask that you continue to be with the town and the citizens of Rutherford County as we continue to face these storms. Lord, be with us through this review of sites, plats, and plans, and help us to make the best decisions for the town as a whole as we can, Lord. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Face the flag. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our next agenda item is citizens' comments. Kevin, do we have any?
We do not have anyone who requested to speak before the deadline last night.
And as a reminder, the town's public comment period shall be reserved for those citizens that have signed up to address a board or committee at least 24 hours in advance of the meeting pursuant to the town's public comment policy. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes, and additional comments may be submitted in writing. Okay. Our next item is election of officers. Jeff, I'm going to turn this portion over to you.
Sure. I think we usually start with the vice chair position first. So I will take nominations for the vice chair.
I'll nominate Mark Atkins.
I have a nomination for Mark Atkins. Are there any other nominations? Seeing no further nominations, by acclamation, those in favor of Vice Mayor Atkins as vice chair, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, the motion passes. Then secondly, for chairman of the Planning Commission, I will take nominations.
I recommend that Tim Morrell stay on as chair.
Tim Morrell has been nominated. Is there any other nominations? Seeing no other nominations, all those in favor of Tim Morrell as chairman of the Planning Commission, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? And it passes.
Thank you, Jeff. Before we get into it, I want to welcome Ken Hill here tonight, your first meeting here. Thank you for the commitment to serving on this board. It serves such a vital function to the town. We appreciate you volunteering to do so. Okay. Next, we're on to the approval of minutes of the March 6, 2025 meeting. Counselor, are the meeting minutes in order?
In order to form, unless you have any corrections you'd like to make.
Any corrections or comments or discussion from the commission?
Not seeing any, I'll make a motion for approval.
I have a motion to approve from Steve. Do I have a second? A second from Mark. Further discussion? All those in favor of approving the meeting minutes from March 6, 2025, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes are approved. We're now on to old business. The first is a preliminary plat, estates at Williamsport Drive, owner developer RMG Development.
Yeah, we received a request yesterday afternoon late that this be deferred for a month. They are working on some things with some, and so they did request that it be deferred for 1 month.
Is staff comfortable with this deferral?
Yes.
Okay. Questions for Kevin concerning the deferral?
Motion to defer for 1 month.
I have a motion to defer for 1 month. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and second. Further discussion? All those in favor of deferring this preliminary plat for 1 month, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This, motion is approved and is deferred. We're now still under old business. We're on to a site plan. Janet Ibrahim, Rocky Fork Road, owner, developer, Janet Ibrahim.
This is a site plan for a duplex development on Rocky Fork Road, following a recent approval by the town council for a rezoning to PRD in November of last year. The development would consist of 5 duplexes and 10 units on 2.1 acres with 1 ingress and egress point off of Rocky Fork Road. A couple of these numbers have been updated since the packets went out last week. So vehicular use area of the site, just over 10,000 square feet at 10,042. That would require 1,004 square feet of landscaping. The proposed number is not shown in the plans. It's assumed that they are above, but that is a staff comment later in the packet to ensure that we do get that number. Total parking required of 45 spaces, and they are showing for 45. And they are also showing one handicap parking space, which is not required since it is a townhome development. The landscape plan shows a type A landscape buffer along the eastern and western lot lines abutting the adjacent zoned R3 property. Willow oak trees are shown along Rocky Fork Road with shrubbery planted between the trees, and there's no vegetation shown on the southern lot line due to the presence of underground utilities and easements. Additional shrubbery and trees are shown within the development. Architectural elevations show the units to be finished with a mixture of brick, glass glazing, and fiber cement board. The front elevations show the entirely brick on the first floor with primarily fiber cement board on the second floor and windowed eaves to be brick. The elevations have changed. This is a modification since packets went out last week. The right, left, and rear elevations all show the first floor to have brick, the second floor to have fiber cement board siding, which was a requirement of the PRD when it went through council. That is now being shown correctly, so the elevations that are submitted do now meet the approved PRD. Standard comments 1 through 7 all remain at this time. Staff comment 1, there is a final plat that needs to be recorded as part of this development to dedicate right-of-way and utility easements on the plat. So that is a comment that will remain. Number 2 is from our utilities department that they are currently reviewing the plans and engaging in conversation with the applicant on this. So number 2 will remain as well. Comment 3, we asked them to provide documentation where the developer has permission from the adjacent property owner to extend sewer through the easement of the adjacent subdivision to the south. The applicant has sent to the HOA for the adjacent subdivision for review, and they are assessing that at this time. We don't have any further comment or response on that, but the applicant is in the process of making that connection with the HOA to sort that out. Number 4 is regarding the architectural elevations to meet design review, and that has been addressed, so that comment can be removed. Number 5, staff had a bit of concern regarding the length of the driveways and being able to adequately support 4 vehicles in each driveway. The applicant has widened one of the driveways and added a side parking space on one of the units to accommodate for all the vehicles, so none of these vehicles will be impeding another unit. So staff is okay with what is shown on these plans, so number 5 can be removed as well. Comment 6, landscaping plans do not meet requirements of the Union Springs overlay. We do ask them to resubmit a revised landscaping plan with their next resubmittal meeting the Union Springs overlay district. They're pretty minor adjustments that need to be made, nothing major, just a couple housekeeping items. So that comment will remain at this time though. Number 7, we asked them to show the total square footage of landscaping provided to ensure it's meeting design review with the 10% vehicular use area requirement. So number 7 will remain. 8 was a comment from our Public Works Department regarding the runoff, and that has been addressed, so comment 8 can be removed. Number 9 is a comment from our Utilities Department regarding profiles for a additional sewer line. That profile has been submitted, and the comment can be removed. The Number 10, ADA parking spaces must meet van accessible width dimensions, which is either going to be 11 foot and a 5 foot hatched area or 8 feet and 8 feet. There's conflicting pages that have different numbers on them. Nothing big, we just got to make sure it's consistent on all pages and everything is meeting ADA requirements. So comment 10 will remain. Number 11, the dimensions shown didn't meet Town of Smyrna requirements for length of parking spaces. That has been updated, so that can be removed. And then number 12, the site data table on the cover page was inaccurately shown as far as the parking requirements. So that comment has been addressed and can be removed as well. So with that, staff comments 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 10 all remain, and the rest have been addressed. As a result of the revised plans that staff has received, we do recommend approval of it at this time. Staff feels the staff comments that do remain are adequate enough that we could review at a staff level and it wouldn't require much of a change to the site. So staff does recommend approval at this time.
Questions for Mitchell on this?
You got any phone calls from anybody on this?
No, not on this.
And when it was up for rezoning, we also did not receive any.
know we've worked on this quite a bit, but we are now satisfied that as far as the orientation of the different units here, it is what we requested, and it meets that as well now, correct?
Correct. And went through the Union Springs, made sure that was accurate, so, yep, staff's comfortable with this one.
I would assume the fire department should review that turnaround. Yeah.
Any other questions, discussion? If not, I will entertain a motion.
With staff's recommendation, I recommend approval. Make a motion to approve
With staff comments.
with staff comment.
I have a motion to approve with staff comments, and do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion? All those in favor of approving this site plan, please signify by saying aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Okay. This motion is approved. We're now on to new business, and our first item under new business is a rezoning request. It comes from Andrew Tarsi, 115 Rebel Road, R1 to PCD rezoning request.
Yeah, this is a request to rezone one parcel of land that's about just over 4 acres of property, 4.04. It is at the corner of Florence Road and Rebel Road. It is currently zoned R1. The requested zoning is to a PCD, Planned Commercial District. Surrounding zoning is a mix of R1, R3, and I3 in town, and RM in Rutherford County, which is on the east side of Florence Road in this area. The land use plan would support medium-density, single-family residential in this area. There is, the comment number 3 that we had as staff, there are some changes in this that we received yesterday as far as the uses. The requested PCD, this hasn't changed. It is 28,063 square feet of multi-tenant commercial space in 2 buildings. The proposed uses include all uses as allowed in the C4 Neighborhood Service Business District, as well as some additional uses. Food and beverage services with a drive-through, that has been limited to just a coffee or cafe. The hookah lounge is no longer included as part of the request. Convenience commercial, including a market with beer and wine sales but no gas sales, that is still included. And general retail trade has been removed entirely, so that whole last clause can be, there's no exceptions or anything, just that general retail trade, and that eliminated several uses that had some concerns from some of the neighbors, including the tobacco and vape shop. So that is what has been updated based on the plans that we received yesterday. The major thoroughfare plan does designate Florence Road as a minor arterial. Adequate right-of-way would be required to be dedicated for that street, which as a minor arterial would be 40 feet from the center line. Number 5 was an informational comment just to let them know the required minimum fire flow is 2,250 gallons per minute at 20 psi. All buildings will be required to meet design review. They do have some renderings in the application. They're close to meeting design review. They do show about a 30% EFS. These would all really be visible from a public street. They would need to be at least no more than 25% EFS, at least 75% brick, stone, or glass. So they would have to modify that a little bit. So that comment would need to remain. Number 7 is a utilities comment that would be looked at again at the site plan stage if this property is rezoned regarding the grease trap and the domestic wastewater being on separate lines. There is a project that the town has been working on. We've received a grant through the MPO to add a sidewalk along Florence Road on the west side. And that is working through the process right now still. And so that sidewalk if they're there before us, they would go ahead and install it. If we're there before they are, it might be that we would include it as part of our project. That's the reason for comment number 8. Rebel Road, we had recommended that it be widened to a minimum width of 22 feet. It's not 22 feet currently. And it would need to be cored just to ensure it has adequate thickness to support commercial traffic. And if right-of-way 25 feet from the center has not already been dedicated for that, it would be required for that as well. So we had a concern. They're showing about 4 dumpsters. There's 19 potential tenants. We did have a concern about that. They feel it's okay. We've looked at that in other developments. If it ends up not being enough, they'll have to add more dumpsters and more dumpster enclosures if they end up needing to add more. Depending on the tenant mix, you may or may not. So we did recommend, and they have now shown, a sidewalk be added along Rebel Road as well, just to connect to Florence, the sidewalk that will be coming on Florence. So that one can be removed. Comments on 12 and 13 regarding ADA compliant pedestrian access and then hydrants. They have not shown at this time, but they don't have any objections to those. And again, would look at that if the property is rezoned to address that when the site plan comes in. And then our last comment was for them to submit a traffic study, and that any recommended improvements would be required to be installed by the developer. So that's our comments. Again, we have heard, and we did pass those along to you. We scanned and sent via email today from several neighbors who had concerns about this development. And so I know there was also a neighborhood meeting that the developer organized and held last week. And I believe some of the changes that we see on the plans were in my understanding at least, I was not at the meeting, but was in response to some of the discussion at that meeting. The developer, the representation is here, as well as some of the neighbors are here. So if you all would like to hear from them, they are here. And so, again, they are not here. No one is signed up to speak on their citizen comments, but they are here if you wanted to hear from them. And I think there was the first page. Yeah, the first page, I think some of the stuff, it may not be on the first page. They had some limitations, and my assumption is this came from the discussion at the meeting. The limitations as far as hours of operation, hours of operation, 5 a.m. to 10, no drug and alcohol rehabilitation facilities, no distilled alcoholic beverages, and then drive-throughs will be limited to laundry service, cafe, coffee, confectionery, that's the coffee shop that you're talking about, pharmacy or a flower shop uses. So not like a fast food drive-through or anything like that. So those are the things. And again, those changed after the neighborhood meeting, so that was my assumption that those were in response to some of the discussion at the meeting. So
Kevin, under the proposed uses on that first page, are any of those not allowed in C4 base zoning?
primary one that's not is there's two. The convenience market with the sale of packaged beer and wine is not. And then the drive-through, any type of restaurant with a drive-through is not allowed in C4. It's like it was as a neighborhood commercial zone, any type of fast food drive-through, just walking from a drive-through and that sort of thing, is not allowed. You can have a restaurant in the C4, just not anything that has a drive-through window. So those are the two main things that are not now with the changes that were made since this went to you last week. Those are really the only two uses that would not already be allowed in C4.
Got it. I met with these guys, I don't remember how long ago now. It's been a while. Initial design and drawing, you know, the building looks pretty nice. I didn't realize at that point, the veneer versus ephes percentages, so I think obviously that's important that it meets our design review there. And we didn't really talk a whole lot about use. I think when we met, they were still looking at maybe a gas station, which gave me some pause, but, I think the building looks nice, and a general C4 for like doctors or dentists or something like that wouldn't be too impactful on the community, but I've got concerns with the convenience commercial uses. It's essentially a gas station without gas pumps. It's a convenience store without gas pumps, and that gives me some concern. I don't think that's a fit for this area, but that's the only thing. I'm not opposed to the C4, but I just don't like that particular use.
Kevin, I recall at one point, I don't think it ever made it here, but they were asking about a townhome project there as well. Did we ever see that as a request?
No, there was some discussion in my initial meetings with them.
Yeah.
There was talk about having less commercial and utilizing some of this property for townhomes. That was a discussion, but there was never an application in that regard.
I spoke with somebody today that I think might have been at the neighborhood meeting, and I don't want to speak for him or any of the people in the audience, but I kind of felt like he was led to believe that now would be probably more favorable than this. And I'm just curious how the residents feel about that. You know, we've kind of always taken the approach that townhomes and apartments aren't our favorite thing to do, and especially on small tracts like this. And I think that's why it never grew enough legs to get here, is my opinion. But I'm looking at this thing, and you've got 4 dumpsters, and they're both on the back side of the buildings. So they're both on the residential side, which is going to, if you don't limit hours of business, and then how do you limit the hours of trash pickup? That can happen at 2 o'clock in the morning. So I think those things would have to be looked at, in my opinion, at the very least. And then I'd be interested to know how the neighbors on this back side, the ones that, some of them wrote letters, or they sent a form letter, but they all signed it, and how they would feel if this were different, if this were a townhome project instead of a commercial project, or vice versa. You got a landowner here that's trying to figure something out to put there. In addition, you've got Steel Technologies across the road from this parcel. How is their berming holding up? Because that too is something we need to make sure of. Continues to be managed.
Yeah,
If
and-
they're
and
letting
we-
that berm go, we need to get on them about that.
Yeah, and I haven't been out there personally. I know you went out and put up the sign, I think. The last time I was out there, it was kind of in the wintertime. There was parts of it that looked okay and parts of it that wasn't being maintained as
So
well.
is our process maybe to deliver notice to them?
Yeah, and I have called in the past, as through the years, I've called them and they have repaired it,
Might be time for a
replaced
call.
some dead, yeah.
You know?
And so they typically do, when you call them, they will usually take care of it.
Yeah, I think they've always been good about it, but
Yeah.
they probably got bigger fish to fry in
Yeah.
what they're doing there, but I think we need to keep an eye on
Yeah,
that.
we
Another
can follow
question I
pretty
had
quick
was
with it.
item 9. Rebel Row will need to be improved to a minimum of 22 feet. Is that due to this being a commercial project? And/or if it weren't a commercial project, if it were a townhome project per se, would that then be needed?
I think we would probably, if this develops
still
to me,
request it?
I think we would probably still want to look at
Okay.
that, just because if you're
I
going to
wrote that
increase
down.
more
Okay.
traffic onto that roadway beyond the residents that live there currently, this is obviously this, or even if it was all townhomes or whatever it was, I think we would want to look at that.
Yeah, okay. I don't disagree, but I was just curious because
Yeah.
you made that as a comment for this project, so.
And just so, it's just to the west side of their property. We're not saying they're gonna widen it all the way to the end. It's really just where
Just on their property.
where they're gonna be impacting traffic, yeah.
Be nice if they do the whole thing, wouldn't it?
It'd be nice, but, I mean, that wasn't our recommendation, was just in front of this property.
Based on the drawing, that's basically 562 feet or something like that. This is one of those weird kind of pieces of property where, you know, generally we try to stay away from commercial abutting R1 or R3 directly. C2, obviously, we almost never do. C4, we have done in a few times, especially dentists and doctors and light uses. So that's the biggest, I think, challenge with this piece of property. There's six homes that abut this, and Mark, to your point, the dumpsters are, yeah, they're 40 feet from two of the properties. So it is a challenge. It's a challenging piece of property for anybody to develop because of the locale. On two sides or three sides, it's residential, and on one side, it's industrial, kind of heavy industrial.
Would something like this start to dictate that they may have to put a signal on that intersection?
I mean, we'd have to get a traffic study. Certainly, that could be a possibility. I think it
Would
might
that be
be,
on the town, or would that be on the developer?
that would be on the developer.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that would,
Anything that study identifies would have to
Yeah.
be the developer.
I think,
I don't know that it would get there with,
I don't know if it would meet warrants or not
Yeah.
for a signal, but that's certainly something that would have to be looked at with a traffic study. For sure.
I think that's the concern of some of the neighbors. The ones that I've talked to have said, you know, I understand they're gonna require a traffic study, but if the traffic study doesn't show improvements, and we're putting a lot of traffic back on the road, even though technically it didn't show improvements. I think we've had trouble with truck traffic on that road and some other stuff that we've tried to enforce. Trucks aren't allowed down there unless they're specifically delivering. And we've had some issues with that, so, I think that's a lot of the neighbors' concerns is how do we control it?
Kevin, when I originally, looked at this and looked at the original requested units, I was looking at the buildings, here and seeing how there appears to be flex space within the buildings where you could build this out, depending on the number and types of businesses that were gonna go in there. So I guess my question is, if we were to consider rezoning, would we anticipate there would be a change at, when we were looking at a preliminary plat or site plan? Or if it were to be approved, are we exactly right here with these buildings, with these sizes, and in the locations that I have specified?
Well, I mean, if this were to be rezoned, they would be maxed out at their square footage. And they would be, this would be, I mean, they would, unless it's a very limited situation, they would have to come back through the whole process to amend it. If they wanted to make, larger buildings or change, a major change to the layout of the building, moving a building around or to a different location or whatever. This is pretty much, I mean, at this size of building and all, this is pretty much what you're gonna see, as far as the layout, I think, because you got the parking where it's set up and the buildings where they're at, so. And yeah, these are, obviously, I think they've got some fairly good idea on some of the tenants, but a lot of the tenants these are speculative type commercial space. So you could end up with they're showing, 7 users in this back building. You could end up with 3 or something if somebody comes in and takes 2 of those spaces or whatever. You never know until they get leased out, really, so. But I think that's why some of those, in that other building, you've got some larger spaces because they have a little bit better idea of what's gonna go in those uses, those buildings, those spaces.
What constitutes cultural and recreational services?
That's primarily, it's a city park or it's a museum or something like that,
Okay.
yeah.
But the big anchor is a convenience store, which is typically zoned C2.
Right. It's a convenience market, without the gas sales, but yes, it would typically be a C2 use. Or C3, which is C2, just on the other side of Louder Street from us.
Right.
Yeah.
I think the difference here with Ed's Bait Shop has gas pumps and a store and some ancillary services along the sides of it, but they don't really butt up to a neighborhood over there, where
pretty
this one
insulated.
does. And I think it's incumbent on us to think about that, because, there is a convenience store out there. It's just
Yeah.
another
Well,
quarter of a mile.
and
over.
that store, essentially, I know they rebuilt, but that store's been there
Yeah,
50 years.
it was a shack.
It was there before any of the residents or
Yeah.
the businesses, I think, most of them.
Other questions or discussion?
I think the developer would like to speak.
Okay.
or-
Can you come forward and give
What
us
gave it
your
away?
name and address?
Him standing up?
Thank you, Kevin. My name is Scotty Bernick. I'm a landscape architect with Reagan Smith and Associates. We're here on behalf of the property owner. As mentioned, it's a 4-acre site butted against 2 roads. More specifically, it's a unique piece of property. It's in between a residential and an industrial site. I think with that, we look at challenges, with a piece of property like that. This rezoning is necessary to provide what I would call an appropriate transition of intensity, of building massing, of those things that make sense. As we look at a high-intensity use such as an industrial, and then you have a subdivision with residential lots, typically we look at what are those appropriate uses that you put in between those to blend that in there. We had the luxury to meet with some of the town's leadership early on in the process. Based on that, there was some input from other commission meetings about, townhomes weren't anybody's favorite product at the time. Also gas pumps, there were some things that were recognized. Also, what I think we heard is they also recognized some of the transitional issues that this property faces. So we're able to take that into account. As suggested, we did host a neighborhood meeting. We received lots of comments. That's pretty typical. It was a healthy conversation. Some of the pieces and concerns that we heard was specific to tractor trailer from the existing industrial site that's using Rebel Road and using that as a turnaround. There was concern that this property uses its frontage on Rebel Road to provide a secondary access point. I would like to say we've kept that secondary access point shown. From a planning principle, it makes all the sense in the world. It helps with disperse trips. And more importantly, if you have emergency services, it would provide another opportunity for a fire truck or ambulance to cut through our site to get back to Rebel Road. So those are some of the reasons why we feel that makes sense in that location. There's another reason I'll touch on here in just a second. Some of the other concerns were specific to uses. Did not want to see industrial. We're glad that this wasn't industrial. Didn't want to have a vape or tobacco shop, or they didn't want drug or alcohol rehabilitation. There were some other uses on the list where some people I think were okay with and sort of liked it, and then another neighbor just didn't want it at all. So there was a few of those. I haven't mentioned those specific uses. As I mentioned with the tractor trailer, if we maintain that second point of ingress egress off of Rebel Road, and we improve Rebel Road just along our frontage, that would give the existing truck traffic that is there today an opportunity to turn around through our site and get back out. I don't know if that will completely solve the issue of the neighbors that are there today, but that's, I think, a very strong benefit to consider of having that second point. With signage, they can literally take left and get right back out. So that would seem like it makes a lot of sense. Some folks appreciated the quality of the architecture. And while some neighbors honestly didn't want anything right here, a few of them acknowledged there's some benefits to having some local commercial space nearby. In order to create a successful project, we need to respond to the market conditions, the project location, maximizing neighborhood services for this area. We're proposing the neighborhood commercial in conjunction with the C4 standards as mentioned. There are a few other uses that we've added on. We've also regulated those. That was mentioned, the excluding gas, so no gas pump. They didn't want the gas station fill, but the having some other options such as packaged beer or wine sell, or making sure that the cafe, the coffee, bakeries and floral have an option to use a drive-through service. So some of those are technical. So one of the family members of this property is a pharmacist, and as she was looking at this property, she said the drive-through for this pharmacy is a critical piece to how I would like and need to do business for the folks that are using the service. So based on, the neighborhood comments, we did provide some of the restrictions that were mentioned. Knowing that maybe we don't hit all of those pieces or the exact time, I would say that the PUD allows us to get very specific, and that's the value of a PUD, because we can provide really good architecture, we can provide layout adjustments. I heard a mention of the material type. I can tell you right now, we will meet those standards. We've agreed in the plan to meet the design guideline standards, so the EFIS versus the brick, that's not a problem, that would be addressed. With the dumpsters, I think that's something too we would absolutely look at. On this specific site, the parking really is what's going to control the amount and who can go in there. For example, you couldn't have all restaurants because the parking wouldn't allow that. So based on those uses, that really determines the need for dumpster and where those are. From a screening standpoint, we were very thoughtful about how we did our building placement. We provided a 20-foot type C buffer on all property lines except for the frontage road. We've oriented the facades of the building, one-story buildings, towards the road frontages. Good, efficient layout that we feel like makes a lot of sense. We're here for questions at the appropriate time. We absolutely would appreciate your support and recommendation to the next level. Thank you so much.
I'm going to do this. I'm going to suspend the rules, and is there anybody here from the neighborhood that would like to come up? And we're going to follow the public comments forms. We're going to do it for 3 minutes. I know we've gotten letters that were forwarded to us, so if you could come up and give us your name and address. Which one? Okay, and whether or not you're in the city or the county.
All right, my name's Robert Piercy. I live at 137 Rebel Road. I have the back of the Steel Technology Factory right across the road from my house. The berm that they promised that was going to block the sound and the feeling of being in a truck parking lot didn't happen. The berm is below the street level in front of my house. That's not a berm, it's a ditch. I should have brought a picture of it, but if anybody wants to drive down Rebel Road, I promise you, I sit in my living room, look out my front door, and I look at truck drivers staring me in the face from there. The wonderful architects that have told you about the meeting, everybody that attended that meeting was in opposition of them doing this at the end of Rebel Road. I talked to every single one of them individually. Nobody is in favor of this zoning change. The person, Mr. Patel, I guess, bought a residential lot. It's owned R1. I have no problem with him building a house under the conditions of what R1 zoning is. But to make it a commercial lot, to widen our road with the traffic issues that we already have, and I think what really got me, and what's so upsetting to me is when I suggested to them that they should just build houses on a residential lot, they said, well, it's not a viable residential property. I'm going like, what do you mean it's not a viable residential property? Well, there's a factory there. Well, I go, so my property is not a viable residence? I just got through putting about $100,000 into remodeling and fixing my broken foundation where the blasting from Steel Technologies about took the end of my house off. It took over $20,000 just to do foundation repair. I'm just livid. This is, we have had way too much shoved down our throats out there. We were annexed. We weren't even part of Smyrna. I lived there for 46 years. And I am not happy about this in the least. If they want to make some money, build some dang houses. Y'all can switch it to R3. They can put 10 houses on that lot, put a street right up the middle of it. They look just like the subdivision behind it.
Okay.
Or they could do 2-acre lots and put 2 houses on it, like we live on. I have a 2-acre lot there with a house. Looking at a factory with a berm below the street level. Anyway, that's all I've got to say in opposition of it tonight. I know there are other people here. I do want you to know, anybody that ever, I don't think anyone that went to that meeting at the park was in favor of this.
Okay.
And actually, I have signatures of all those people that I'll be forwarding to you in opposition of this zoning. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Piercy. Okay. All right. Any other questions? No, we're just,
We only suspended the rules for one.
yeah,
We
just
had one of each.
for one, so we're good. Okay. Further questions for staff or discussion here?
Well, I'm glad he addressed the berm once again. I think we need to look at that berm because it sounds like it's settled beyond settlement and needs
Not
to be
even sure
there.
it was ever right, so maybe we just need to make sure they get it right, what was actually approved.
Okay, any other questions? I will entertain a motion.
I can't say I disagree with Mr. Piercy at all, so I'm going to make the motion to deny
Based upon,
based upon the use.
okay, use being inconsistent with surrounding zoning,
Yep.
okay? I have a motion to deny based on use being inconsistent with surrounding zoning. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All of those in favor of denying this request, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This motion is declined. Okay, we are next on to a preliminary plat, and this is for Bulldog Drive subdivision, Lee Victory Parkway and Bulldog Drive, owner developer NIR Homes, Inc., Kroger Limited Partnership 1. Kevin?
Yeah, this is a preliminary plat for property off Bulldog Drive. We have a site plan for one of the lots in this development is on your agenda for later on. This is one, and we have in front of you, we did receive some comments today, some emails and requests to speak, but it was today. And so we have those in front of you. We had about 3. I think I've received an additional one since we printed these out fairly late in the afternoon today. I did receive another email, not requesting to speak tonight or anything, just expressing opposition to the development. So, you know, in addition to that, there's been, I know, quite a bit of discussion and chatter on social media as well. And so we're aware of that, the concerns from some people in the neighborhood or in the town. So, and so we can go through that, or we can go through I can go through the comments, or how.
Because I've also seen quite a bit and received a couple of emails. I'm going to go ahead and suspend the rules once more. And if there's someone here from the community that would like to come forward and speak for 3 minutes, I mean, most of the things I'm seeing, there are some current concerns here. I'd like to hear what the concerns are, and then we'll go back into the meeting and go from there. So is there anybody here that wants to provide us with any type of comments or concerns or discussion concerning the Bulldog Drive subdivision? Okay, no one's here, so let's work through this.
Okay. Well, this is a subdivision of property. It is on Bulldog Drive, as well as frontage on Lee Victory Parkway. Property is zone C2. This proposed plat is 8 lots, 27.67 acres. We had several comments. Many of these are standard comments. Really, 1 through 5 are all standard comments. They would all remain. The major thoroughfare plan does designate Lee Victory Parkway as a principal arterial and Bulldog Drive as a collector, and adequate right-of-way does exist per our thoroughfare plan for both of those streets. The other comments would all still need to remain. Just, these are some things that need to be cleaned up on the plat. We need to add the stamp and signature of the engineer that prepared the plat. There is a stamp on it. It's a land surveyor, and our subregs do require an engineer to stamp the plat for a preliminary plat. Comment number 8, there is some, and I will also, Mr. Trey Lee who works for the school board is also here and can speak to some of the questions I know may come up as well later. But as part of that, there was some deed restrictions on this property that if we were to sell, that there was a requirement for some land to be donated to the school board. And I believe the board has voted to accept that. But we'd ask for an access easement to be shown to that property. It's on the kind of the northern portion of this property, which I think we have the map on the PowerPoint. We can show that in a second, but just to provide an access easement from this property to get over there to it. So, number 9, just for them to label and show and label all proposed public easements. They've got several easements shown. Not all of them have dimensions shown, and some of them, we'd also ask them to provide some dimensions from property lines if they don't abut a property line. So those need to be cleaned up still. There's a couple of ingress egress lot easements that also need to be shown and labeled. They do show a sidewalk along Bulldog Drive. We don't ask them to extend it all the way to the Lee Victory right of way. That has still shown as being not showing that, so comment 11 needs to remain. There is some abutting residential property to the north. We asked them a type C landscape buffer strip is required in that area. There is a storm water line in that area that is exactly 15 feet off that line, off the property line. So we had some concerns about having adequate room for the buffer when you have to avoid a stormwater pipe as well. So I don't know if there's a way to shift that line a little bit or something like that. Number 13, again, a lot of these are housekeeping things, but to add the name and address of the owner, the subdivider, and the engineer that prepared the plat, then all those need to be shown on the plat. There's a couple of fire hydrants, and I think they were moved. When you see the site plan, I think they did get moved, but they're still shown here. They were kind of on or near a roadway, as well as near the pond, detention pond, that need to be moved out of those areas. And then just to add the name, the Bulldog Drive is shown on the plans, but the name's not shown. That's all needs to be shown as well. So really all the current comments for the plat would remain. Again, most of these are relatively minor, but they are all required by the subregs to be shown. Again, we do have a site plan later on that's on lot 1 of this, so there's 8 lots shown. The developer, actually, Mr. Lee is here as well as a developer that we can address. We can address this here, we can address it with the site plan, but there's multiple road improvements that are proposed and things of that nature as well that we can talk about whenever you all would like to talk about that. So, but
Specifically to the plat, you mentioned the Board of Education easement. I see on the bottom right of this map, there's a call out for that, but I'm not really understanding where this easement is. Can you help me out there?
yeah, there's another one. I think there's on lot 7. They're showing an easement. And
I see that.
And that's not one. That's not the property we were talking about. And or the other one. I think those are the existing billboards that are on that property.
Yeah, they're square, so I'm assuming is that what that is?
The
billboards?
property, and maybe I think, let's see, yeah, there's the traffic, yeah. This is shows all of the parcel. So you have the commercial piece here. This is the part of that's being proposed for development. The 30 acres is this area in this part of the property. And so that's what we were just asking for, was an easement to get from here back to here. Otherwise, they have to build a bridge across the creek from the school
Where
board
where
property.
approximately is the line of the property that they donated?
The 30 acres, I do not know. I have not seen a survey or anything like that. I know it's somewhere in this area here, though, the most northernmost piece of it. And again, that was something that was required by the deed. When the current owner, my understanding, when the current owner bought the property, that was something that the seller placed on there. Back in like 97 or something like that, I think, so.
My understanding is this C2's been zoned that way since 1989, is that right?
It's kind of in its current configuration since 1999, I think it was September of 99 that the council at that time approved the current configuration. In 1986, I found an old zoning map because I got to digging, so I just kept digging. This area, there was almost like a radius from the interchange here of Lee Victory and Lowry Street. It was kind of an arc, kind of like this, that was zoned C2, and the rest of it was zoned R4, which at that time did allow multifamily. That was from like 1986. And then in 1999, this area that was C2 here became multifamily, and this area that was multifamily down here became C2. And so this current configuration was created. So, but it's private property, it has been, private property, and was zoned commercial. Part of it was zoned commercial. Really, 86 was before the school was even built, I think.
So any agreement that
understanding.
either the schools or even the Parks Department had with the private owner to use this property was just a handshake agreement with them, basically, or an agreement with them directly. The town doesn't have any agreement or any part of this. Is that right?
Yes, certainly the town doesn't have any ownership of the property. I'm not aware of any agreement formal agreement that the town has for the recreational uses that are out there at times for practice fields and those kind of things, right?
I know that I've never seen it come through. Usually where we have those agreements, like at Life Point Church or at the rehabilitation hospital where we've had those use agreements, and I think even All Saints Church at one point,
I
we
think so.
usually see those agreements come through for approval, and I've never seen one for this piece of property, so that's why
Right.
I assume there isn't one, because I've never seen one. But
That's my
I've seen
assumption
those
as
other
well.
properties come through where we have made an agreement to allow our Parks Department to use it for practices.
Right.
So how many acres, I'm sorry. How many acres was R6?
I know we looked at that. I'm trying to recall.
Was it
The total track, I think, is in the 80 or 81 acres.
Was it
I think.
43 or 4 acres, it was R6?
I think it's maybe closer to 50. But 30 of those acres are have been donated, but yes. It's a little over 80 acres total.
Okay.
And so it's between 40 and 50 that's R6, I believe, somewhere in that range. I can't recall. in this
Of
map.
that 40 or 50, some's being donated to the school?
Correct.
30 acres.
So it would remain still 20 acres-ish
Roughly,
that would be still zoned R6.
correct. Yeah.
So that's about 280 units based on R6 zoning.
At max density, yes.
So if that other 30 acres was not donated, if this did not sell, when does that 30 acres transfer over, does it?
I believe it's based on the sale.
So if it didn't sell, an additional 30 acres is still zoned R6?
Yeah, but if they ever were to sell it, I think. at
I
some
mean, if they
point-
developed it.
Yeah.
So that would be,
Yeah, I don't know what the, I haven't seen the actual deeds. I don't know what the actual
Okay.
wording is. Yeah, if
Well,
the
we're-
current owner
we're
decided to
ballparking is all we're doing, but yeah.
build apartments back there, if that,
so my concern is 50
Yeah.
acres,
Yeah.
if not sold, 50 acres and developed at 14 and a half units per acre,
that's a lot, yeah.
it's several hundred,
About 700.
yeah, of townhome product or apartments.
Any type
Right.
of multifamily.
That's the last big piece we have in town that I'm aware of that is correctly zoned for that use
And not under development currently.
and not under development, so.
Right.
In theory, the developer or the owner could, which I think a lot of people think this is what they want, they could donate that C2 property, 30 acres, and then develop all of the R6 property, in theory. Which means you would maybe get your practice fields, but you would also get 700 apartments or units in the back. And so to me, that would be a very significant impact to the schools if they went that
Well, and I
route.
think that's where I'm trying to think through this a little bit, just from a standpoint of, careful what you wish for here, because the zoning is there. That C2 zoning is there. And that meets what they're proposing is, right?
Yes,
That meets the zoning.
yes.
We can't change the zoning without them requesting to change the zoning. So it is C2 today, tomorrow, 10 years from now, unless a request comes in to change it. My concern is what happens if this doesn't, if it goes straight R6 and the owner decides, I can't sell it, I'm just going to develop it, and then the school doesn't get 30 acres because they didn't sell it.
Yeah.
Is that right? Am I,
That's my understanding. Again, I
Okay.
haven't seen the
So
actual
if they didn't
deed
sell it,
right.
they could possibly, well, we'd have to
in-
rezone it, which.
Well, I mean, the
personally
current
would-
zoning is
Yeah.
R6 here.
Yeah.
So if the property doesn't sell, can they just develop it without selling it?
Yeah.
I guess is the theory, and that could be the case. Again, I'm not,
we're not saying they're doing that.
yeah.
Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, I'm not saying that, yeah.
But we have to
and
think
I don't
through every
know if they
scenario
could,
here.
or how the deed restriction is set up. I haven't read
Okay,
it.
all
So
right.
I've been told about it, and I know that the board did act on, the Board of Education, did act on,
You mentioned Trey was here. Is
Yeah.
Trey here? He's with the school. But you're hiding back there, Trey. Can you suspend the
Yeah,
rules?
we'll suspend the rules and let, because I think there are several questions that I saw in some emails or online that maybe you could work us through here. So if you give us your name and address, please.
Yes, sir. Trey Lee, Chief Operations Officer for Rutherford County Schools. I'm a Smyrna resident, 725 Williamsburg Drive. First, I'd like to say thank you for the continued relationship that the school board has with this body and with the town of Smyrna. We've had a very good collaborative relationship over the last few years, and we're appreciative of it, and we're here to continue that tonight. First of all, I'm not here to speak for or against the proposed development, but I will provide some context and answer whatever questions that you all may have. That's the reason Kevin asked me to come. First question is the 35 acres that's in the back, that it's in the deed. The way it's written, if this deal falls through and someone else comes along and wants to buy it, the deal is still there. The 35 acres is ours, if we choose to take it. We have first right of refusal. The one thing that the board has voted on at this point, and I'm going to speak for the board, and then I'm also going to speak for staff. I want to make sure that you guys are clear on who I'm speaking for at what time. The board has voted to take the option on this piece of property.
So they
In
will,
that-
so they will accept it.
Yes, sir. In that same vein, I've had a number of conversations with Mike Moss, a couple of conversations with Kevin, a couple of conversations with Mayor Reed. The board has also voted that once the property is in our name, that we do have a handshake agreement with the town. We will be collaborative with you guys. There's some intentions to extend the greenway. I think the town's recently received approval to go under the tracks near Karen's Custard. That's been a long-term thing. That was on this board's agenda when I sat on the planning commission. So that's something that's been a long time coming. So we have a gentleman's agreement that once the property's there at that point, before anything's done with it, and the vast majority of it's in the floodplain, there's not a lot that can be done with it, but it's always been the town's ambition to bring the greenway across under Lowry and then get back on the other side of the creek. And we do have a handshake agreement. The board has voted to do that. So we do have that agreement. At that time, whenever that is, a year from now, whatever that is, you will see it, some type of an agreement. Mike and I have worked through, I don't know how many of these. The last one, I think, is when we leased for $1 for 100 years a portion of our property for Sharp Springs to have some additional parking at one of the pavilions that's adjacent to John Coleman Elementary. So we have all kinds of collaborative things that we go back and forth, so none of that's an issue. That's what, and that is the extent of what the board has voted on at this time. As staff, we've looked at a lot of this. We've worked with their engineer. It's a lot of heartburn with anything that's coming on Bulldog Drive for us as the school system and for the town. It's gonna be difficult no matter what's done there. And we understand something's coming. Now, I'm gonna speak for staff. I'm not speaking for the board. I'd rather have commercial than a bunch of apartments. And that's just me personally. It's very difficult from a transportation standpoint, and with the school right there, it's gonna be difficult enough, no matter what's developed there, for us to get our busing into the school and have buses trying to navigate. If it was to become residential, it would be very difficult to navigate through those apartments. It's very problematic. And from that standpoint, that's kind of, I think that's the first few questions you guys were asking, and I'll be glad to sit down and come back or answer questions that you may have now.
Yeah, Trey, let me ask this. Speaking of buses, do you have a tentative or maybe more of a solid plan on how bus traffic and school traffic would flow from Bulldog to the schools?
The developer, engineer, GMC, has worked with myself and our transportation department. It's a viable plan, yes, it will work. We typically don't like to mix buses and cars. We try and bring buses in one side, cars in another, and then we take them out. They cross each other in front of the school and they go out the side that the other one came in. This one's always been tough, especially with McWilliams Drive paralleling, and you've got people that use it as a cut-through. It's almost like a side road. And it's always been kind of problematic, but it worked well for us because it was just us there. We all knew that one day something was coming. It's always been dangerous there. People coming out of McWilliams, and I've got students coming from the back of the campus, and it's been a long time ago, but I remember how I was as a 16-year-old driver. I had sort of a lead foot. And they get in a hurry coming down Bulldog. And then you've got parents and cars trying to come out of McWilliams, and it's not a good situation. But there's not a whole lot we can do either. This plan does close McWilliams. And we are looking at the first South Kroger access. They would cut us in. And I recommended or requested that it was a T intersection, because if they're offset, it doesn't work for either one of us. And maybe they're going to show you that on their site plan. I'll assume they would, but we've worked through a lot of that. I've worked with our transportation department. We can make this work. It will be any change for bus traffic is difficult for the first 2 or 3 months. So when this starts, there'll be some growing pains, but it's not something that we can't work through.
Trey, was there a discussion or ever an option for the county to simply buy the commercial property to keep it from developing? Because
Prior-
that's come up quite a bit.
Prior to this, the current owner did make an offer to the school board to see if they wanted to purchase it. You all are elected officials and deal with budgets just like we do. That is a very appealing piece of property. The problem is, if I put another school there, what kind of school is it? We have, as a district, Stewartsboro Elementary's right around the corner. David Urey Elementary's a little bit further than a rock's throw, but it's pretty close. We've got Smyrna Elementary. We've got Smyrna Middle. We've got a number of schools that are in this same geographic area. So would it have been a standard type school? No, so we looked at a specialty school, like a CTE specialty school. There's some logistics trying to make one of those work, but in the end, we've got property at Thurman Francis, we've got property at Smyrna Middle, and we have property at Smyrna Elementary, where we could do this same type thing there. And at that time, the board decided at that time that we're currently, recently put under contract a piece of property here in town for a new high school and another middle school. We just felt, we didn't feel like the county commission was able to fund all of our dreams. If we had a dream, could we buy that and pave it and it'd be a great parking lot for 4 or 5 nights a year? It'd be awesome. And the city could continue to use it. But it was just determined that with our other properties around and our other needs, we just didn't have the funds and it didn't work for us at this time. And I know that hurts a lot of people's feelings. The principal there has let me know that
Yeah.
on
He's-
more than one occasion.
I think he's probably let all of us know.
But-
Or she. I was thinking about Mr. Rakes.
But, well, he doesn't like it either.
No, he does not.
But we're all constrained with, we all have financial limitations, especially with taxpayer dollars.
Let me ask one more question. There was one of the points that I know that you guys worked on with them. The site plan, which we'll get to, has a couple of out parcels between the parking lot and the school. One of the concerns that Ms. Sutherland had raised was that open parking lot with visibility directly to the school. And I think this was an intention on their part to kind of block that view and make that a little better. Are there other safety concerns that you have as staff with having a grocery store, parking lot, and out parcels this close to the school?
Not as much as I have with an apartment.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
Not as much as I would have with an apartment complex. I would have more concerns with an apartment complex. And there again, I'm not speaking for or against, I'm answering your questions.
Absolutely.
Well, and I think, too, it's worth noting that TDOT governs that road.
Yes, sir, they do.
And so that drive is your only option, is making that drive improvable enough to get, TDOT won't let another cut come up near that bridge.
No, everybody's tried it for years.
Right,
And
so,
and these gentlemen, when they came to see me, said, we're gonna go see TDOT. And I said, put that money in my pocket, because you're gonna waste your time and your money.
careful, you'll be called
And
corrupt.
they tried it, and I give them credit, and they did, but it's not a good, that curve and the bridge and the sight lines, it's all bad. You're right. I mean, it's one, that's it.
Yeah, and that doesn't change no matter what this develops to.
No, sir.
The only
It does
access to
not.
this property is that road.
That is 100% correct.
Well, it kind of matches the point I think I brought up earlier before you came up. There's my concern right there. What if that turns into what we don't want? That's my concern.
Anything else for Trey?
Trey, thank you.
I'm gonna stay for the rest of the meeting, so
All
if y'all
right.
have any
So
other
in
questions.
case we
I'll
need you
be-
back up here?
I'll be glad to come back
All
up.
right, thank you. We appreciate you, Trey.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
How long have those apartments been up there? One's on the corner.
The ones that are already
On the
built?
west side of the school, 20 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, the ones on the west side has probably been 20, close to 20 years. The ones on the north at the very end of the cul-de-sac of Bulldog are a little more recent. They're maybe 10 or 12 years ago, something
Yeah.
like that.
I think that's right.
And the school just did thank you, Trey, they just did a nice addition over there.
Sure.
We had an opportunity to go over there and tour it. It's a beautiful building. Obviously, it took up some of their parking space, you know, but 30 acres can help that, I think.
Well, that brings a question up for future events and so forth. Is there enough parking for the school currently without this property?
Here he comes.
Coming back.
Sorry, I didn't
already.
ask sooner.
The answer to that question is we meet all current regulations, so we do have the number that is required by the city. Now, is there ever enough on Friday night? Oakland, Riverdale, Stewart's Creek. Stewart's Creek works because we got an elementary and a middle school right across the street, so they can share some additional parking. None of our schools have adequate parking for special events, elementary, middle, or high.
Would that 30 acres be a
It's,
benefit?
it's in the very back and it's in the floodplain. It's behind the practice field that's down in the
Right,
bottom.
yeah, I know where it's at, but would that benefit them? in park-
It's, if
For
we can
events?
get to it, could we? Yes.
For
I mean, you
events?
know,
You probably have to do some shuttles or something, because it's a pretty good distance to walk.
it's a long ways back there. We can get to it easier probably from the practice field, which is on this side, and we have an access road down through there now. I mean, eventually, could we pave it and put some of that in, make it a gravel parking lot, and maybe not pave it to where, you know, you could put some parking back there? Sure. It's a viable option for overflow parking, yes.
Okay.
You may want to stay up here. Ken, as much as I am aware, the school's never paid the property to have overflow parking there. It's just something that was allowed. And at any point in time, I think they could probably hold up their hand and say, no more.
Have you
Correct.
have you had any conversations with the developers about using the lot on Friday nights?
I'd prefer to keep that, I'll say it this way, I don't know how they would control it. And I don't know that we would deter it.
Understood.
Yeah, let's leave it there.
That's about as politically correct as I can say it.
Okay. All right. I think we're going to let you sit down one more time.
Okay.
You'll be back.
Thank you.
I want to get as much fact-finding as we can here. Did anybody have any questions for the developers while we're here and we're discussing?
I might have one.
All right, go ahead. Somebody come up and you give us your name and address, please.
Randy Perry, Goodwood Mills, Kaywood, 104 Mimosa Drive, Gallatin, Tennessee.
Okay.
Yeah, so my question kind of evolves around a topic we talked about a little bit earlier with a project we denied, and that was the one on Rebel Road. Some of the uses that people get concerned about are becoming more and more frequent, more and more common. In your opinion, are some of those uses things that you can live without?
Yeah, the ones you mentioned during
Some of
Rebel
those,
Road?
yeah.
Sure. And the developers here as well, the client, the tenants that we're looking for in those outlots is going to be at a higher level. We're not going to.
Probably not rentable to the businesses we're talking about, but.
This is a destination, Kroger's a destination,
Yeah.
and we want customers, and on Friday nights, if there's overflow parking that occurs, that's potential customers for us, so that, we're not gonna have other uses in there that are gonna be detrimental to the business model.
Well, so one person asked a question in an email, or I think it's this, one of the letters we received. And it talks about, and I don't want to disparage anybody here, but it talks about Kroger having been here before and leaving. And so when that happens, we don't want to see that happen. But if it were to happen, and it's zoned correctly for that type of product, I think we have to make sure we protect that. You see, so if you're gone, hope you're not. But if you're gone, as an example to the one over on Lowry, and that zoning's in place, I think if this were to move forward, I'd feel better knowing that we protected that shopping center 20, 30 years from now from having nefarious types of operations that we kind of don't want to see over there. Does
Sure,
that make
and
sense?
we're open to that discussion. If there are certain uses that you want listed as
Okay. That was my question.
Yeah, I'm gonna, if you want to come up and give us your name and address, please.
Road Seeger, Southeastern Development, 2743 Perimeter Parkway, Augusta, Georgia. So as far as the uses go, Kroger, first of all, Kroger would be a partner with us in the acquisition, so they would be a part owner in this. So they would be investing dollars in this as well, which would be a very significant amount of money. So they obviously put a lot of research in that and would not spend millions of dollars to close that store anytime soon, but they do put restrictions on uses for the center, which I think I sent to Kevin, is that right?
We do have them.
Obnoxious uses, so we have restrictions in that development with different uses that we cannot do, and I sent that to Kevin.
Okay, so,
Well, let me be really just blunt.
Yeah.
So what we're talking about and what was a concern was vape shops, cigarette shops, beer and tobacco.
alcohol.
Alcohol would not be, I mean, it's
Especially with
allowable,
the school
but,
there.
well, and I don't think it would because of the distance to the school, but also,
At least on these out parcels.
but also, we're capped right now. There'd have to be,
What are you talking
there'd have
about?
to be we'd have to change the ordinance to allow another liquor store anywhere in the town of Smyrna right now. So I guess what I'm getting at, either through, Jeff, and you may be able to help out here, either through some type of covenant that Kroger would have in place, or would we be able, as a council, to say, we're good with C2, but we're going to exclude certain uses within the C2 for this, or,
You can only do that during a PUD.
okay.
Now,
This is
if
straight
they wanted
zoning
to
here.
submit, deed restrictions as part of their stuff, that's another
That's
thing.
where I was going, is this is
Okay.
straight C2 zoning?
So if they submit that as part of the deed restrictions and we approve it, that's approved with the
That's just-
motion,
Right,
With the property.
with the property, correct?
right, and they're just showing you evidence that they took that step.
Could that
Okay.
change if, say, they sold or moved to a new owner? Is that it goes with the property?
It usually runs with the land, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So I believe vape and tobacco is included in those uses, restrictive uses, and that would be in our REA agreement that's recorded. But as far as beer and alcohol, Kroger obviously serves beer and wine, so we just have to be careful with that.
Well, I mean, logically speaking, I don't think you're going to have an out parcel with someone who's selling the same thing.
So Kroger, like I said, Kroger's a partner of ours. They have a say in what goes on the out parcels.
Right.
So they wouldn't put competitive uses in there.
That's what I was gonna say. We have our own restrictions, Kroger has our own restrictions against.
I thought you was fixed to tell us to get in the basement.
But we have our own restrictions against competitors. We wouldn't have a vape shop, a tobacco shop, a package store, when we sell those items in the store, those kinds of things. It's part of our REA with the developer and with future tenants.
Okay.
And this will be bringing some more jobs.
Yep.
Camera locations, real quick. Do you have secure camera locations on site?
We do have
School across
cameras.
the street, I'm thinking safety here, so.
We have cameras. In fact, we have discussed with Captain Scott about more cameras and where to aim them, where they're wanting to tie them in with the city system. We're amenable to that, and we've discussed it with the police department, and we're waiting on some feedback from them to determine where might be the best locations for those.
Okay.
Could you expound on what would be preferable by Kroger for to be additional stores?
As far as the out parcels go?
Yeah, so typically with a Kroger development, we get a higher end client list on the out parcels, retail uses. We've got a national bank we're working with now. On one of the outlots, obviously Kroger's got their fuel center on one of the outlots. Quick serve restaurants, but typically on the higher scale of your retail uses.
Okay. Anything else for these gentlemen? Okay. I gotta say, it was kind of powerful when Trey stood up and said he'd rather have this from a safety perspective than apartments. I guess, Trey, I really hadn't thought about it to that degree, but I understand what you're saying. Okay. Kevin, have we gone through everything?
Well, I mean, I think there's still a few things that we haven't really talked about, the traffic improvements, if we want to
All
wait
right,
to do that.
let's go ahead now
Okay.
and let's turn it back
And I
over to you
believe
and
that
let's
the
talk through
gentleman
this.
who prepared the traffic study is here and can answer maybe specifically, but this slide does kind of show with some the proposed widening of Bulldog, as well as some additional improvements into Lee Victory as far as turn lanes and those kind of things as well. So I'll let them,
Do you have sheet C-103 in there? Do you have sheet C-103?
believe that's what's on the slide.
That's out of the traffic study, and Rich Phillips is our traffic engineer.
Oh,
And
okay.
and one thing that's not shown on his, can I point to it on the map? Is that easier? Bore your,
Let me see if we have it with the site plan. No, okay. I think that's probably the best
yeah. that's-
slide we have, yeah.
It might be easier if you guys can hear me. As far as Lee Victory, we're extending the right turn, this is the westbound right turn lane into the site, to allow for 300 feet of stack. The westbound approach, we're adding a second left turn, so we'll have dual left turns into Bulldog Drive. The signal gets rebuilt according to all these improvements. For Bulldog Drive itself, we've got dual lanes coming in, which widens to a dedicated right turn lane in Kroger's southern entrance. And then those two dual lanes continue on, and the eastern lane then turns into a right turn into the northern entrance, and the through lane continues on. And our improvements on the site plan in here, it's a little short here, but we're doing these improvements in sidewalks all the way to the cul-de-sac, well, even beyond. So this configuration with southbound, northbound, and a continuous left turn lane continues from this intersection on up here, and it's reflected on the site plan that sheet I mentioned. As far as exiting, we've got the continuous turn lane, the southbound lane, which then bumps to 2 at this. This is the northern school parking lot entrance, because we have another one here that's shown on the site plan that's not on this traffic study. There's an additional entrance here, and I'll start to describe that in a second. So that bumps to 2. Now we've got 2 continuous down, and that turns into dual rights and dual lefts. So 2 out in either direction at the intersection. McWilliams is closed at this point. This is a TDOT comment. We have met with TDOT and walked through a lot of this with them. We add a few parking spaces here, and on the site plan, this road is picked up. It kicks out here, and then it squares up to create that T intersection for the cross intersection here. And that road is on the site plan, it's just not on this traffic. This is what we had added after we did the traffic study, but the rest of this is.
Will that intersection be signalized?
This
Not-
one?
yes.
It's not planned on it.
So what's the control there?
Is it stop signs?
It's just,
Stop
it says right
signs.
away, and these are stop signs.
So they
Stop
have a
signs.
crossing
And
guard.
I suspect with most schools, I'm married to a teacher, most schools, if there is, when traffic coming in and traffic coming out, there is the opportunity to have traffic control.
Crossing guard.
Crossing guard. Crossing guard.
Selena, you had a question about crosswalk?
No, I was asking about the crossing guard, if they're gonna have one
Oh,
at the
crossing
T
guard,
and
okay.
at a,
It really
out
wouldn't
on the
be,
main road too.
it really wouldn't be a T, it'd be basically like a four-way.
It would be.
Yeah, it's a four-way stop.
Is there any pedestrian crossing that's factored into this as well?
Yes, and this is, on the site plan we show them, but even on the site plan, we've agreed to add our 2 raised crosswalks. You had mentioned people would gain a lot of speed down Bulldog Drive. So these, instead of just striped crosswalks, and they're not on the latest site plan, we only have one, but we've agreed to add a second one. And that would be the raised, I guess, the speed hump type. the plateau
Like a
type.
speed table type, yeah.
And the fire department's okay with that?
Right, yeah, the detail that I sent them was something that I actually got from the fire department that
Okay.
they were okay with, yeah.
And there are sidewalks all the way up here that we tie into.
In the morning, your bus commute's gonna be a lot better and easier with that improvement. It's the afternoon when people are in the shopping center and the buses are coming out.
Yeah.
That
I mean,
four-way may
You got
need
about
to
a
be
peak hour, really,
Yeah.
on morning and afternoon. Here he comes.
I guess this Kroger will see a drop-off near about that hour.
We won't have buses coming out there. We have one-way traffic. It'll be buses in and they'll go out back Williams to the light.
Okay,
To the side.
so they're not gonna be anywhere in
They
there.
will not be coming out there. That will be students only.
Answers that, yeah.
This is an in only.
And that is in, per our conversations, that's one way.
Okay.
Buses go in,
Correct.
cars can go in, but they cannot come back out. Now, they're 16-year-olds.
Yeah.
They have, we're trying to teach them to read. So they're not supposed to. They're not supposed to.
Oh, no, you didn't.
I did, sorry. But that's our intent. That would be our, from the school's intent, it would be buses in, cars in. Cars could come out, but buses would go out the other end.
Okay.
If you could give us your name and address, sir.
Yeah, it's Richard Phillips. I'm the traffic engineer, 106 Mission Court, Franklin, Tennessee.
Okay. Do you, or what can we get you to add to this as far as what's been explained so far? Is there any additional?
No, I mean, I think Randy did a good job at explaining it. And we did, as Trey mentioned, we did meet with TDOT, and one of the things when we were talking to them, and they were basically saying, you know, you can't have another access like opposite Chicken Pike and you know, due to the controlled access fence. But one of the things they brought up is they wanted to maximize the number of lanes that would be on Bulldog. And so they wanted to see the double left out and the double right out as far as exiting Bulldog Drive. And then they wanted to see the 2 entry lanes as well, which you know, correlates with the double left going in. So this will be a benefit to the school in terms of providing more capacity at that intersection for their morning entry. Obviously, as Trey mentioned, you have issues. You have issues with any high school, Stewart's Creek or any of them, in terms of when school gets out and all the students are leaving. But we definitely wanted to make sure that we maximize the potential of Bulldog in terms of the number of lanes and the traffic capacity at that intersection.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Sorry, I do have one. Did you consider the other end of J.J. McWilliams and any improvements there to help flow people out that side from the school?
There's traffic control officer that controls traffic there, and due to the geometry of it and the width of what's there, we didn't really see any particular improvements that would be needed in terms of dealing with this development.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Kevin?
I think that's all that I had, as far as with the plat itself. Again, we can have discussion about, there's obviously the site plan for lot 1, which
Right.
is coming up later, but as far as, which a lot of the discussion we had would be for both, but, so I don't have, again, we had about 15 comments on the plat. Those do all still need to remain, with any approval, so. I think that's all I've got, though.
Okay. Thank you, everyone, for the discussion tonight. I know that it's answered quite a lot of questions that that I had, and I think the commission had, and the community had. So, is there anything else that we have questions on up here, or any further discussion that we want to work through?
Just wanted to thank Trey for his time and input, and the work he does. He spends a lot of time in our community getting these schools right, so.
Very much so. Okay, I will entertain a motion.
I will make a motion that we approve the preliminary plat
With staff comments.
with staff comments.
I have a motion to approve the preliminary plat with staff comments. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion? All those in favor of approving this preliminary plat, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This plat is approved. We are now on to final plats. Our first item is Six Cedars Business Park, Phase 1, Building K and L, 7 Oaks Boulevard, owner, developer, Six Cedars Investment LLC.
Yeah, this is it's a plat for, it's the site plan you all saw last month. This is really just to set up the ability to potentially sell these units. These are all commercial units, office warehouse units. These were the last two buildings in this development. So it's one lot, it's about 4.48 acres. It's just, again, it's really just to kind of set up to be able to HPR the buildings as well as dedicate public easements. Most of the comments we had left are really standard comments. They do still need to, really 1 through 6 are standard. And number 7, they still need to add the owner and attorney signatures prior to the submittal for recording. Number 8 was a comment that has been addressed regarding some additional dimensions. Again, that's just so that we know where the easement begins from a property line when they're not necessarily on a property line. So we can remove comment number 8. So with those remaining comments, we would recommend this to you.
What's the open space at the end of Building K?
In the building K. Yeah, that's just parking area, and, yeah, I don't think there's even any detention in that area. I think it's really just parking.
So it'd be paved?
Yeah. Yeah.
Get any letters, phone calls, anything?
No. And this does abut, and we looked at this on the site plan last month, before you were with us, and there is a buffer, there is some residential on 2 sides of this, and there is a fence and a buffer there that does exist or would be added with this development.
Anything else? Do I have a motion?
Move to approve, staff
A
comment.
motion to approve the staff comments. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Motion and a second. Further discussion? All those in favor of approving this motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This motion is approved. We are now on to our next plat under final plats. This is the Vintage Block 2, Needham Drive, White Birch Avenue, Carriage House Drive, owner developer, Waldron Investor Family Limited Partnership.
Yeah, this is just a one-lot subdivision. It's part of the Vintage PRD. It's 16.448 acres. This is to basically a plat to dedicate the right-of-way for the public streets, which are White Birch Avenue and Carriage House Drive, as well as the public easements on the lot. This is a site plan was approved a few months ago. We had several standard comments, 1 through 5, which all remain. Number 6, I will point out, White Birch Avenue and Carriage House Drive are both designated as collector streets on our thoroughfare plan, and they are dedicating the right-of-way and building those segments of those streets. We had asked for comments 7, or regarding just to submit some utility construction plans. 8, to add a signature of the owner prior to recording. There's 9 and 10 and 11 were all also utility comments regarding to show all existing utilities, all necessary public easements, and then public sewer being routed through a detention pond. Those are all need to be reviewed by our utilities department to see if those have been addressed or not. We just got these revised plans yesterday and they have not had a chance to look at that yet. So we want to keep those just for them to get a chance to review those. Number 12, they did, they're still showing, it still says a drainage easement on one of the ponds. Just want to make clear it's not a public easement, so we just want to, that was the comment. Number 12 would need to remain because that was a comment from our Public Works Department. 13 is an informational comment regarding an ARAP crossing for the crossing of Harts Branch. Comments 14 and 15 regarding the 12-inch water main along Genie Lane as well as the 8-inch water main, or I'm sorry, 8-inch sewer main connection to the 12-inch sewer main there along Genie. Those have both been addressed and can be removed. So with comments basically 1 through 13 remaining, we would recommend this to you.
Questions for Kevin on this?
These roads, Carriage House and White Birch, they become public streets.
They will be once they're completed, yes.
Okay.
Anything else? Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve with staff comments.
Motion to approve with staff comments. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second to approve with staff comments. Further discussion? All those in favor of approving this motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? This motion is approved. Okay, we are now on to site plans. Our first item is Jonathan's Grill, Pilot Place, Sam Ridley Parkway West, owner, developer, Equitable Property Company.
This is a site plan for Jonathan's Grill. They're proposing a 10,100 square foot facility within the Stewart's Landing development on Lot 2. Access to the site would be provided via 2 ingress and egress drives off of Pilot Place and through a shared access easement across the southern property line, which does run parallel to Sam Ridley Parkway. Vehicular use area on the site, just under an acre at 0.95 acres, and that does require 4,146 square feet of landscaping. The applicant is showing for 6,573 square feet, meeting our requirements. Total park required of 101 spaces, and they're showing for 108. Handicap parking requirement of 5 spaces, which they are showing. The landscape plan shows shrubbery lining both Pilot Place and Sam Ridley Parkway West road frontages. Additional street trees will need to be shown to meet design review requirements for streetscaping. We have received revised plans since the comments went out. They have revised the plans, so that statement is no longer relevant at this time. They have added those trees sufficiently. Trees and shrubs are shown within landscape islands with additional shrubs planted at the base of the proposed building. Architectural elevations show the building to be finished with a mixture of brick, glass glazing, and ephes. All 4 elevations are shown to have a minimum of 87% primary materials. As presented, it does meet our design review manual requirements. Standard comments 1 through 7 all remain at this time. Staff comment 1 is a more of a standard comment, but any retaining wall that is over 4 feet would require a building permit. Comment 2, the utility plans are under review at this time, so that comment will remain as well. Number 3, the FDC will require a 3-foot clearance, and that has been addressed sufficiently, so that comment can be removed. Number 4, we just wanted them to add a note regarding the landscaping to meet Middle Tennessee Electric standards, and they have added that note. More of a standard comment though, so the comment will remain. Comment 5, the landscaping plan shows conflicts where the water meter and backflow preventers are proposed to be located. We would like them to remove the shrubs where there is conflict in that area along Pilot Place. So that comment will remain. 6, ask them to label topographic contours, which they have done accordingly, and that can be removed. Number 7 was regarding the street trees along Pilot Place, and they have done that, can be removed. Number 8, Design review does not allow more than 25% of trees on site to be ornamental. They are sitting just under 30% currently, so a couple more trees need to be shifted over to a different species to meet that requirement, so not a big deal on that one, but that comment will remain. And comment number 9, there is some incorrect tax map and parcel number data shown on the plans, which has been addressed accordingly, so that comment can be removed. So we're left with staff comments 1, 2, 4, 5, and 8, and with that, staff would recommend approval.
Questions for Mitch on this one?
Is this our third business in there now?
If you don't include the 4 other buildings that are shown at the entrance off San
Yeah, I'm
Jose.
talking about just the ones that have come in.
Yes, standalone.
Yeah, standalone disposition.
Yeah. So Wawa's already done, and is it City Barbecue?
It's really developing out. Not hearing anything, so I'll go to the commission for a motion.
I'll move to approve the staff comments.
I have a motion to approve with staff comments. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion. All those in favor of approving this motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? This motion is approved. Welcome, Jonathan's. Okay, next we have Caitlin Point Business Center, 188 Moore Avenue, owner, developer Sharif Faoud.
This is a vacant tract at 188 Moore Avenue. It is being proposed for a 2-story, 2,823 square foot professional services use building. The lot is 9,864 square feet, or just under a quarter acre in size. Access to the lot would be provided via a single access point off of Moore Avenue. This section of Moore Avenue from Overton Drive to Crescent Avenue, about a block or so, is Zone C4, but the properties are all primarily being used at this time for residential purposes. The properties were rezoned by council back in November of 2004. Nothing was done with them at that time, and they all stayed residentially occupied and being used as, so just a non-conforming use is what those properties are being used as today. Square footage of vehicular use area, 3,836 square feet, and that does require 384 square feet of landscaping. They're showing for 500. Total parking for a professional services use is 1 space per 400 square feet, which would require 8 spaces, which they are showing, and 1 handicap parking space, which is being shown as well. The landscape plan shows streetscaping along Moore Avenue between the parking lot and the roadway. Additional vegetation is shown surrounding the base of the proposed building. As a result of one of the staff comments I'll go over later, the applicant has added a row of eastern red cedars along the eastern property line, which does adjoin the residentially occupied dwelling with the property to the east. Architectural elevations show the building to be finished with primary material of brick and glass glazing, with all faces containing at least 86% primary materials. A cornice of fiber cement siding wraps around the top of the building on all 4 sides. As presented, the elevations do meet design review. Standard comments 1 through 7 all remain. Staff comment, we had first staff comment being this is a tight lot. We do ask that a surveyor is going to stake all the corners of the building prior to obtaining a building permit. This is to ensure that the building does meet all the appropriate setbacks. So that comment will remain. Number 2, there is a door access to the roof of the building. Staff was primarily concerned that this is going to be used as some kind of a occupied space for events or such. The applicant has noted that this is strictly for maintenance of the roof area. Easier access, less cost to have a door access rather than, lift or what have you to get to the top of the building. So that is what that is being used for. Staff is fine with that, so we can remove that comment, second comment. Number 3, we asked them to provide additional landscaping along the eastern property line just to be good neighbors with the adjoining property owner to the east, since it is being used for residential purposes, adjoining a commercially zoned lot. Since both these properties are commercially zoned, there's nothing that says they have to, but we just requested at staff level, and they agreed to do some additional landscaping. So comment 3 can be removed. Number 4, there was a sewer cleanout maximum of 10 foot away from the building that has been addressed and can be removed. Number 5, a landing pad is required out of the rear door leading out of the back of the building. They have shown that landing pad, so that comment can be removed. Number 6, we asked them to show the proposed water service size. Applicant has noted that is not known at this time, so is not shown. So comment 6 will remain. And number 7, there was a tree that was close to a water meter. We asked them to shift it to the opposite side of the driveway, which they have done, so that comment can be removed. With that, staff comments 1 and 6 are all that remain, and with that, we would recommend approval.
C4 building in a C4 zone that meets design review.
Correct.
Okay. Roll it down. Any questions or comments?
I can't tell, what's the material the decking is made out of? Can you see or can you tell?
What do you mean the deck?
The back porch corner decking, the second floor decking?
I think it's a rail,
There's a
metal railing.
There's a metal rail.
Is it metal? Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to be sure we didn't have a bunch of dry wood graying out later on.
Did y'all get any calls or?
I think that whole street's zone C4, if I recall,
That block right there is.
On the
what
south
I mean.
side it is, yes, yeah.
right?
Yes.
Didn't we do that many years ago?
2004.
2004.
There you go.
Yeah.
My memory's scaring me now.
Other questions or comments?
So when you say it's all zone, is Moore Avenue you're talking about?
Up to,
The house next door?
yeah, it's
Yes,
already zone C4.
yes.
He didn't show it on there, but I only knew that because we did it
Mhm.
so many years back.
So I don't see, does this have an elevator in it?
I do not believe so. I think it's just stairs.
Wouldn't make sense. I don't understand the whole
The,
reasoning to put a roof door up there.
In the plans that you have, the elevations page, you flip those smaller pages over, and there are
Yeah.
interior designs in there, which I believe are just stairs. Like I said, the
Yeah, just-
top part is just for maintenance purposes.
Is that elevator or just a stairwell,
I
right?
believe it's
Stairwell.
stairs.
Just stairwell.
Just anytime I've ever seen a roof door like that is an invitation for another use up there.
Well, that's kind of the reason why we asked the question, is it become a party deck? Or something like that. That was our concern.
Yeah.
So,
What's the staff comments that y'all put in there for that it wouldn't be used for that? I know it was like number 7, you said it could be removed.
We just asked for a clarification.
because our initial question was why is it there? And they said it was basically just, they said it wasn't gonna be used at all. And we're like, well, why is it even there if it's not gonna be used? And that's when they said, well, it's just for maintenance of the roof itself.
Is there an HVAC system up there?
No.
There's actually
No, they're
some-
showing it
HVAC's
gonna be
on the
split
ground
systems
floor.
on the ground.
It is a flat roof building as well, so that does have its own challenges with maintaining. So that was another item that the applicant did bring up when I was asking about it earlier.
'Cause that's the tallest side closest to the neighbor to the east.
Can we add a
Need some good
comment that that
shadows.
should not be used for,
I mean, the use, yeah, sure.
Add a comment for door to be used for maintenance use only,
Maintenance use only, yeah.
as a suggestion.
Yeah.
Or the roof to be used.
yeah, the roof,
Yeah,
yeah.
or
Not the door.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Access to roof, or whatever we want to call it, and roof, whatever.
Roof access only for maintenance.
Yep.
Yeah, that way it doesn't become something later.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Or if it does, we can enforce it, right?
There's additional code and safety requirements just that we wanted to make sure we addressed if it was to be used for, but, yeah.
Perfect.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
make a motion to approve with staff comments. Assume your comments will include that related to the door. Sure.
Okay, a motion to approve with staff comments. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion? All those in favor of approving this site plan, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? This motion and site plan is approved. We are now on to our next item, which is Kroger Bulldog Drive, Lee Victory Parkway and Bulldog Drive. Owner, developer, Kroger Limited Partnership 1.
Yeah, this is the site plan for the plat that we reviewed and discussed earlier. They are proposing to develop a second facility here within Smyrna off of Bulldog Drive. The store would be located on Lot 1 within the Bulldog Drive commercial subdivision. Access to the site would be provided via Bulldog Drive through, I believe, 3 separate locations. A second outbuilding is shown on this future parcel behind Lot 6. Parking and landscaping are shown, but a separate site plan would be required for the building. A future lot to the south is proposed to be a fuel center for Kroger, which will require a separate site plan submittal since it is on its own separate standalone parcel. Square footage of vehicular use area, 9.1 acres, which does require 0.91 acres, and they are showing for 0.91. Total parking of 533 spaces is required, and they're showing for 544. Required 11 handicap parking spaces, and they're showing for 22. The landscaping has changed, so there's a little bit of modification in here since packets went out. The landscape plan shows a buffer along the northern property line abutting the apartments. A type C landscape buffer is required with a C2 development adjacent to a R6 property. The existing vegetation will have to be revised to meet a type C landscaping requirement. Shrubs are shown within landscape islands in the parking lot area. We will require trees to be shown in these landscape islands, not just shrubs, so that is a staff comment we do have later to be revised as part of this, as well as upping the type C landscape buffer to meet our requirements as far as what a type C buffer requires. So that is landscaping. The design review, architectural elevations show the building to be finished with a mixture of brick, stone, glass glazing, fiber cement board, and metal accents. All 4 wall faces are shown to have a minimum of 75% primary materials and not exceeding 10% of accent materials, which would be metal in this instance. As shown, the elevations meet design review requirements. The standard comments 1 through 7, all to remain. List of staff comments here. Staff comment 1, we asked them to submit water and sewer construction plans for our utilities department to review. So comment 1 will remain. Comment number 2 was touched on earlier regarding the addition of some security cameras on the property, and the applicant has been in touch with our police department regarding this comment. So both parties are working on that to come to an agreement on what is best for the situation. So we would like to leave that comment, though, remain. Comment number 3, we would ask them to provide a written confirmation from the school board that the proposed alterations to its property have been approved. The applicant has noted that a draft agreement has been sent and confirmation was requested from the school board. So that comment will remain as well. Number 4, regarding the fuel station on Lot 2 and the future shops building on Lot 1 will require a separate site plan submittal, as the fuel station is on its own separate parcel and no architectural elevations were submitted for the shops building at this time. Their intentions were to build out the parking lot and do landscaping around that future lot or future building within the Kroger lot as well. But they would come by in the future with another site plan in order to construct that building. On the site plan, the fuel center is shown, but like I said, it is a separate parcel, so we will require a separate site plan for that entirely. Comment 5, the auto turn was to go through our fire department for review, and they have reviewed that and has been addressed accordingly, so that comment can be removed. Number 6, we asked them to extend the sidewalk along the eastern side of Bulldog Drive to the southernmost extent of Lot 4, which they have done and can be removed. Comment number 7 and 9 kind of go along with each other in regards to the landscaping. Mentioned earlier, the Type C landscape buffer needs to be increased in order to meet our Type C landscape buffer requirements. It does require offsetting evergreen shrubs and trees, so there's a supplemental vegetation shrubbery that needs to be added in addition to those evergreen trees. We just need that to be shown the entire length. It's shown in bits and parts of it, but not the entire length of it. So pretty minimal on that comment, but we do need that to be increased to meet our Type C requirements. Comment number 8, the numbering was not consistent with the plat that was reviewed earlier. That has been addressed and can be removed now. Number 9, regarding the design review for landscaping not being met, regards to the additional trees that we need was shown within the landscape islands, not just shrubbery. They had, last submittal we had last week showed trees in part of the landscape island, not all of them. We're halfway there, we just need the remainder of trees to be shown now in those. So we do have shrubbery now, we just need trees to be added to it. And then for the plan to meet design review requirements as far as all landscaping is concerned. Comment number 10 is a utilities comment. We just need them to show sewer profiles, which will go along with comment number 1 for them to provide those plans to our utilities department. Comment number 11, the hydrants were shown on top of underground electric. They have relocated the underground electric, so comment number 11 can be removed. Number 12 is a utilities comment. The floor drain cannot connect to the sewer, sanitary sewer main. Once again, another item that can be reviewed as part of the utilities department review, but that comment will remain. Number 3, the dumpster, or number 13 rather, the dumpster location to include the elevations as far as that's concerned. They now included elevations. It's in the back of the building. Material is to match the existing, the proposed building, so we're okay with what they're showing, so that comment can be removed. Comment number 14 is regarding the traffic study, which we discussed earlier. They have submitted that. And then comments 15 and 16 regarding the plans that sheets that were to be submitted as part of their next submittal, which is this one. Those comments can be removed as well. We did have a couple additional comments. They had Murfreesboro contact information listed on their landscape plans. We need that to be reflected accurately for Smyrna, not Murfreesboro. And then comment number 18, we asked, as discussed earlier, those speed table designs, we need those to be shown within the plans for those details, so we can ensure they meet whatever the fire department requires as far as that's concerned. So comments number 5, 6, 8, 11, 13 through 16 have all been addressed. And then we have those additional comments, 17 with the Murfreesboro to Smyrna, and then the 18 with the speed tables, details sheets. With that, staff would recommend approval with those comments.
Quite a bit of discussion around preliminary time. Now we're looking more at, of course, we're looking at site. Are there other questions or comment or discussion that we want to have here?
Only question, I guess, that access easement that we talked about, I don't know if it affects Site 1 or not, because I didn't know where it was.
There's one between lots 6 and 7.
Okay.
We need that to be shown on the plat, it's not.
That's where you're gonna have the access to, as they discussed, this is really the first access, and there's gonna be your main access probably into this. Here, and there's an access here, and there's an access back here. So yeah, this will be obviously, these will be the out parcels we mentioned earlier.
Yeah, but I'm
Here.
talking about the access to the 35 acres in the back.
Yeah, yeah, that's up here, and so yeah, we don't have that, that's not shown.
Because I kind of assumed that
The
Lot
discussion
one
has been probably from back here somehow.
okay, so
But,
as long as we don't lose track of it,
yeah, that's,
It'll be on the plat.
yeah.
yeah. I will, one clarification, one of our comments, number 3, I did receive an email, and I apologize to Mitch, I forget, that's with a busy day today, I didn't pass it on to him. We did receive a letter from Mr. Lee regarding addressing comment number 3 there that we had about the written confirmation, so, which he obviously stated it today as well at the meeting, but we did receive that letter, so I do, that, we could remove comment number 3. Under staff comment.
What's the closest grocery store to this area?
Walmart.
Probably the Walmart on Eden Springs or the Publix on Lee Victory.
So this would be good for the whole neighborhood.
It's kind of in between.
Yeah.
It's something that the community has asked for a very, very long time, and, you know, it's one of those things we don't control where we don't go out and buy site plans as a town and then direct people to build certain things there. It's
Free market.
It is a free market, and we work within the zoning within the free market.
And
Thank you.
Mr. Peach did point out, and I'm remiss, but there is the food line there on Old Nashville Highway as well. It's probably, maybe the actual closest one to this site.
Yeah,
It certainly would
probably
be
so.
closer than the Publix.
There was a time we lost Kroger and Food Line when Walmart kind of went to grocery sales, and a lot of the neighbor people that mentioned they would like to have another option. So I think at least this does that, to Ken's point.
Yeah, and I saw some comments about, we talked earlier, Kroger was here before and they left. They were right there near this location. But a lot of things have changed in Smyrna since then. I think when they were here before, we had about 35,000 citizens, and now we're approaching, if we're not over 60. That area has developed out a lot more than it was back then. So it's not apples and oranges. Plus, that was probably 20 years ago.
That they closed?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's at
Probably
least
longer than
10, maybe 15, yeah.
So it's been a while.
That's when Radio Shack was there.
Yeah, that's right.
It's been a while.
Other questions or comments?
I do want to kind of clarify, just, so I do know now exactly how much of the property is commercial in R6, so just, I want to give a little bit more information on that. The property, as I said, is a little over 80. It's 81.95 acres. 46.32 of it is R6. So, and then 35.63 being C2. Those are GIS estimates, those aren't surveys. So if the 30, roughly, I think Mr. Peach found on the deed, about 30.14 acres or something like that is part of the property that would be the school board taking ownership of. That leaves 16.18 acres within R6 zoning, which would have a max density of 234 units. That's what would be left after the property donation occurs. So,
Well, it's a lot better than 700.
yeah. Yeah,
To Trey's point.
currently, it's about, would be 672, got max density for that 46.32 acres, so.
Well, I said earlier, the best I can tell anyway, the planning commission and town council has tried to move further away from the high-density apartment complexes, unless they already have the correct zoning, i.e. what this is, they have the correct zoning. And this is the last large parcel that I'm aware of, you may correct me, that
I think that's true.
that would allow this many townhome apartment units in town. I don't think we have anything else zoned that would allow for that anymore. And that's sort of been the challenge, really, from these bodies, is not being able to say no to somebody who has proper zoning. And so that's kind of where we are with this one, too. They have the proper zoning, but we're going to find out that we won't have 700 apartments there, or something thereabout, if this goes forward. From a school's perspective, the principal on down to the people, social media sort of lit up with it as well, and we understand that. But I think if they sat down and looked at these plans and understood some of the workings of it, they probably would prefer, just like Trace said, you'd probably prefer having this type of opportunity there as opposed to that type of opportunity there. So it makes good sense, really, whether you like it or not, whether you disagree with it or not, it just makes better sense. And the zoning's appropriate, it's there. So they can do this, we just put our hands around it and make sure it's done right, but they are allowed to do this, and that's what a lot of people don't understand.
Anything else from the commission? Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve site plan with staff comments.
I have a motion to approve this site plan with staff comments. Do I have a second?
I seconded it before, so I'll second it again.
All right, motion and a second. Further discussion? All those in favor of this motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Site plan is approved. We are now on to our next item, Rutherford County Medical Examiner's Lab. It is on 215 I Street, owner, developer, Rutherford County.
This is a site plan for the Rutherford County. They're proposing an addition of a medical examiner's lab on property owned by Rutherford County on Weekly Lane. Existing buildings on the property include the Rutherford County Clerk Office, recycling facility, and the previously used emissions testing facility. Access would be provided via I Street. The proposed use of the medical building would be to provide lab services for forensics and autopsies. The BZA did approve this building on the property in February this year. Vehicular use area on the site, 1.46 acres, and that does require 6,364 square feet of landscaping. Applicant is proposing for 7,442, increase from when packets went out last week. Total parking requirement of 54 spaces, and they're showing for 70 new spaces. That does require 3 handicap parking spaces, which they are also showing for. Landscape plan shows a variety of shrubbery and trees planted throughout the site. Trees and shrubs are shown within landscape islands surrounding the new parking lots and the vegetation at the base of the building. Architectural elevations show the buildings be finished with a mixture of brick, glass, glazing, and metal and concrete. All 4 wall faces are shown to have at least 75% primary materials, which would meet design review. Standard comments 1 through 7, all to remain. Staff comment 1, retaining walls over 4 feet require building permit, more standard comment, but that will remain. Number 2 is more of a standard comment as well. There will not be a sidewalk that is required on Weekly Lane between 8th and 11th. The sidewalk will be on the residential side with a crossing at 9th Avenue to the Greenway. More of informational than anything else. Comment number 3, we asked to add a crosswalk from the new parking area, which they are showing next to the clerk building. Comment needs to be edited. We will need them to show the crosswalk in that area, to not start with the landscaped area. We don't want to dump people in if you have ADA requirement needs or such, that we don't dump it into the grassed landscape area, so we need that to meet requirements. Comment number 4, we asked them to show the existing landscaping at the clerk's building, which they have done so, so that comment can be removed. 5, we asked them to show the 100-year floodplain elevation, which they have done and can be removed. Number 6, we asked them to ensure the ADA parking space minimum is reflected, which is the discrepancy you saw in the staff report when packets went out of 2 spaces being shown versus 3 required, and they have added that 3rd space. So that comment has been addressed. Number 7, to revise the site data table to reflect this building, and they have done that accordingly as well, so that comment can be removed. We did have an additional comment as part of the additional ADA space that they are showing on site near the clerk's building. We do need, since it is on the opposite side of the drive aisle, we do need a crosswalk to get from that parking space to the front of the building to meet ADA requirements. So that is just an additional comment. Staff comments 4 through 7 have all been addressed and can be removed, and with that, staff would recommend approval.
Questions for Mitchell on this?
Mitch, am I understanding correctly that I Street will essentially dead end into the property now,
Correct.
instead of moving on, continuing on in front of the DMV?
Correct.
And so that access to Weekly Lane across from Mitchell Drive, is that the existing access that's kind of just past the old MARTA location, or is that a new access?
That would be a future one, future building.
But is it the existing one that's already there, the access to Weekly Lane, or no?
There's only the one access on the Weekly.
I don't think there's an access.
I think there is just past is there not one just past the awning for the old MARTA location?
Yeah, that's further, so that's where I Street comes up to.
Okay, that's all right, okay.
But that would be a future, I believe that's anticipated, that would be an EMS building there. The one with the access across from Mitchell Drive.
Got it,
That would
okay.
be coming back at a later time.
Other questions or comments?
I'm pleased to see from a previous discussion on this property that the roof ventilation system has been accounted for from a sightline type of thing. That's good.
Sir, did you want to speak?
Yes.
If you could give us your name and address, please.
James Artisan, Smart Utilities Project Engineer. We wanted to ask at the utility department of the engineer of this particular project, where and how is the organic matter and fluids will be stored, and how will they be exposed of.
Okay,
Okay.
Good question.
all right. Is someone here representing the project? Give us your name and address, please.
Matt Taylor of SEC, 850 Middle Tennessee Boulevard, Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Anything organic like that will be hauled off and disposed of in a very strict manner. So none of this is going to go down the drain. We've provided a full list to the utility department of anticipated chemicals, which are pretty mild. I think it was a Virex, something like similar to a Pine Sol type chemical that gets sprayed down anytime this is going on. So pretty limited elements there.
Okay,
Y'all are governed by some pretty strict rules on.
good.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, removal.
All right.
Yeah.
Utility is good.
It's a good question, though. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
asking.
Other questions or comments? If not, do I have a motion?
Move to approve, staff comments.
Motion to approve with staff comments. Do I have a second? Second. Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of approving this site plan, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The site plan is approved. Our last item under site plan is Tucker's Point Phase 2, 8613 Rocky Fork, Amable Road, owner, developer, Tucker's Point Ventures GP.
This is the Tucker's Point subdivision, the phase 2 of their development, which would consist of 32 townhomes. Access to the townhomes is provided via single access road off of Kenwin Pass, which does extend through the single-family portion of this subdivision. Amenities provided as part of this phase would include a playground and dog park area. Square footage of vehicular use area, 0.6 acres, and that does require 2,618 square feet of landscaping. They are proposing for 2,623 square feet. Total parking requirement of 144 spaces, and they're showing for 146, and they are showing one handicap parking space as well. The landscape plan shows landscaping lining the parcel in the area adjacent to the single-family dwellings. Additional trees and shrubbery are shown along the guest parking area. Due to topography, the remainder of the site to the west is to be preserved in its current state. Architectural elevations show all townhomes to have two-car garages. All homes are required to be finished with brick, fiber cement board, stone, or faux stone. As shown, the elevations match the approved PRD. Standard comments 1 through 7 will all remain. Comment 1, submit sewer construction plans to the utilities department. Comment number 2, more of a standard comment, but an HPR will be required to dedicate the public easements to be submitted, approved, and recorded prior to issuance of any building permits. Comment 3 is a comment from our codes department to show a pedestal for electric meters set of each units. They are responded and said they will be proposing wall-mounted units, but our codes department will require those to be pedestal mounted. So comment 3 will remain. Number 4, there is a retaining wall at the back of these units behind lots 57 and 46. So Stormwater Department did ask how the water would be directed, since it does, over time, it would have the probability of eroding. They have responded with that, with a swale to direct water to the outfalls, and so we are satisfied that comment can be removed. Comment 5, the addition of a fire hydrant near lot 48, which has been shown, can be removed. Number 6, the limits of disturbance area, we asked them to extend that to behind lots, single-family lots 47 and 46, which they have done, can be removed. Number 7, the architectural elevations were not submitted with the previous submittal when it went out last week, and they have submitted those at this time. So comment 7 can be removed. Number 8 is a utilities department question. We asked them to provide the Town of Smyrna sewer details, so we'll leave that comment for them to review. Comments 9 and 10 are CUD comments, as this does lie within the CUD service boundaries. And we have one additional staff comment. The landscape plan will need to be required to be submitted and meet our requirements. It was submitted as part of the last submittal, omitted on this submittal, so we just need that to be submitted for the future to ensure it is meeting all requirements. So with that, staff comments 4, 5, 6, and 7 have all been addressed, and we have that one additional staff comment at the end, but we would recommend approval with those comments.
And I heard you say that this has been consistent with what was previously submitted
Correct.
and approved.
Correct.
Y'all get any calls from anybody on this?
This is already approved, it's
Yeah.
just.
I'm saying if anybody here is
Oh, yeah.
happy about that.
Yeah, it's just a fine.
We saw the plat pretty recently for this subdivision, so.
PRD was amended, it actually reduced the number of units. When the PRD amendment came through, a few months, it's been a few months ago now. Yeah, the plat, I think, was last month, and now this is just a site plan for the townhome portion of the development.
I noticed on Kenwin Pass and West Home Drive, there's sidewalks on both sides of the road, but in this section, there's only on one side. Is that consistent with the rest of the development? Do they only put sidewalks on like the main road, both sides? Is that what they did?
Yeah, and these roads will be private, whereas those were public. I don't recall, I think we just have to,
Yeah, this Lansom line or what, lane or whatever it's called, yeah, it says private beside, I see that.
yeah. I don't recall there being sidewalks on both sides of the private streets or the alleyways. I think they were just the main streets, as far as both sides.
Okay. As long as it's consistent, I just noticed that it was
Yeah.
only on one side.
Right.
Other questions or comments?
Property off to the left there?
So that is part of this track, everything that's in that muted white. That is part of this tract. It is topography, so it is being left as is due to the nature of the site.
Yeah, Ken, this was a piece of property, when it came initially, there's a retaining wall that we had a lot of discussion about because of the elevation change. So there's a retaining wall along parts of this.
I was curious if that was something separate, if there needed to be like a buffer or something shown.
Yeah, it's part of this plat, it's just gonna be open green space for now, forever, I guess, unless they come back and change it.
Yeah, it's fairly heavily wooded, and I think they're just leaving it alone.
Anything else? I will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve with staff comments.
A motion to approve with staff comments. Do I have a second?
Second?
Motion and a second. Further discussion? All those in favor of approving this site plan, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The site plan is approved. We are now on to the April bond review reports.
Yeah, go through these, we got several this month. First one is the Ideal Tridon. This is the property on the end of Tridon Drive, the industrial development there. This is the end of their maintenance period. They had 3 minor issues to work through. They have indicated to me they'll get those done before the due date. So if they do that, we can release. Otherwise, we might need to extend it 6 more months, but they've been pretty well on top of it to try and get that finished up. Hidden Hills Section 5, Phase 1. This is the end of the maintenance period on here, and Mr. Butler is usually pretty good to respond. He actually did this time. So again, a couple of minor issues to clean up there. If he can get that done before the expiration date, we could release that one as well. Otherwise, we would need to extend it. Woodmont Phase or 8A. I did not hear back from that developer either. This is one this phase they're have permits at least on all the homes, and we've had it only 1 year though. Typically on a 1 year issue, we do extend it 1 year. Again, may want to change that to 6 months just because they are getting close to being built out there. I'd rather them go ahead, get started on getting those paved. Point Section 2, this is this is the Genie Lane and extension kind of from Motlow Boulevard back towards Old Nashville Highway. Again, this is one, they pretty much are finished with a few minor issues there. We can reduce this one. to 25% of the bond, which is $28,800, extended 1 year as the maintenance bond. Six Cedars Business Park, this is another phase of the plat we saw tonight. This one is, we can reduce. They got their contractor working, kind of cleaning everything up. We could, this is the end of the maintenance period on this one, so if they get all that done, those 5 issues, which they indicated to me today, they are done, so we'll have to follow that up with the utilities department on that, because this was just a utilities bond. And so if everything's done, we can release that one, otherwise extend it, but most likely can release that one. Blakeney, Section 3, Phase 2, before the package went out, I had not heard from the developer. I did hear from them yesterday. They're about 78% built out in that phase. They did request an extension. The builders have indicated to them they would be finished up in fourth quarter of this year. So I would recommend a 6-month extension on that one, and hopefully by then we'll be into the fourth quarter at that point. So hopefully we'll know a little more. Stone Trace, this is the commercial development, kind of in front of the Vintage development there, where all the commercial development there at the corner of Old Nashville and Sam Ridley. They've paved recently, and they have requested an extension, a reduction rather, and begin the maintenance period, so we're okay with that. To reduce it to $75,000, extend it 1 year as the maintenance bond. Buckingham Place, Section 1, and there's a couple of these from the same developer there in Buckingham Place as well later on. Both of those, I did hear from him. He feels like he's got everything done. I know that our inspectors are working with him to make sure everything is done. So hopefully we'll be able to release both of those Buckingham Place letters of credit, because he believes he's working through at least to finish those up. So hopefully we can release those. Otherwise, a 3-month extension on those, because those have both been hanging on too long. Vintage, this is Phase 1 or Lot 1. They still have some items to clean up there. They did hear from them. They are planning on waiting until completion of Phase 2 to pave and stripe the roads because of the construction traffic that will be on Phase 2. That would be anticipated to be done by next year. This is one we've had a couple years now, so I wouldn't recommend more than a 6-month extension on that one. Woodcrest 4, again, this is one that even though I did hear from the developer, the same developer as Buckingham Place, even though I did hear from him, he did not address this one. This is one he needs to pave these streets and get this one done. So I'm not recommending anything more than a 3-month extension on that, get him to the summer, maybe get that done. And then the Buckingham Place we already addressed with the other one, so that's all I've got.
There's really no reason for Woodcrest not to get that done with the weather
I don't know.
coming the way it is.
Yeah, I mean, that one's he's paved everything else out there. That, for whatever reason, that phase he hasn't paved yet. I don't know the answer to that question.
Are we at a point to send a letter?
Yeah, I mean, of course, they'll get a letter every month anyway, but yeah.
A new letter, different letter.
Yeah, a
More-
different
more.
letter.
Let me write it.
Yeah, I'll let Mr. Peach
Yeah.
maybe write that one.
Ken said he'd pay him a visit.
Yeah.
But that's,
Is that it?
That's it.
All right, we've heard the bond review report. Are there any questions? If none, I will entertain a motion.
Okay. I'll recommend approval of the bond report.
Okay, I got a motion to approve the bond review report. Do I have a second?
Second. With staff comments.
With staff comments. Further discussion. All those in favor of approving the April bond review report, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The bond review report is approved. Next, we have staff comments or other business.
The only other thing I would mention is 3 weeks, on the 24th, is our quarterly and our next one, joint meeting between the council and the planning commission. We have tentatively, or not just tentatively, pretty much confirmed, but we will be presenting the final draft of the mobility plan update. which we had the joint meeting a few weeks ago, the presentation at the event center. So this is kind of taking all that input and giving the final recommendations for projects as well as the updating the maps. And so that will be that night. Certainly, our consultant has assured me that I'll have that either tomorrow or early next week. And so when we get that, we'll certainly move forward this to you all as well as the council so you can have that and review it beforehand. Having said all that, if there's any other issues or things that you all would like us to talk about, if we have time, feel free to let me know. If there's issues you think we need to address in some manner or topics you would like to discuss, we can certainly do that as well. And so just let me know if you have anything that you'd like us to add to the agenda. So I believe that's all I've got.
Okay. Anything from the commission?
One thing, this young lady right down here had a birthday yesterday.
Yeah, she did.
And her husband's sitting out there, and I hope he took her to a nice dinner.
I took off the whole week.
There you go.
All right, good catch, James. Ken, welcome again.
Thank you.
Appreciate you willing to serve. I'd be amiss if I didn't thank Amy Wise. I didn't realize she wouldn't be rolling back on, but Amy provided a lot of valuable input and contributed to this commission, and we appreciate her service as well. And with that, we are adjourned.